And good afternoon. It is shortly after 1 p.m. here on Tuesday, September 29th. My name is Ryan Belmore. I am the owner and publisher of What's Up Newp. And joining me, as he does for many of these conversations, is Mr. Frank Prosnitz. How are you, Frank?
I'm fine. How are you, Ryan?
I'm doing all right. We have a colorful background here again today.
Indeed.
And there we go. That's a little bit better. And
right.
We are getting, now that we've gotten past the primary, we're going to start really ramping up our conversations with the candidates over the next several weeks. We are just weeks away from the general election. Of course, the first debacle is tonight at 9 p.m., as they say. And, we are focusing on the local races. We'll leave the national races. What do we have here? We have 6 weeks.
Getting there. We're in the home stretch.
We are in the home stretch. We have about 100 candidates to talk to. We're going to talk to as many as we possibly can, including a candidate today that we're hoping joins us any moment here. And that is Patrick Donovan, who is a Republican who is running against Lauren Carson in District 75 in the House of Representatives, which is Newport. It is one of the few districts in the state that just is, a portion of one single town, and that is Newport, and that is District 75. So Patrick is expected to join us shortly here. And then coming up at 3 p.m. today, Eastern Standard Time, we'll be joined by Lauren Carson, who he is challenging. She is the incumbent, and she is the Democrat, and she is seeking another term representing that seat.
There you have it. Well, nice to have been with you today, Ryan. No, I'm only kidding. It's, these are important seats. This is going to be an interesting year. I'm not sure what how the progressives are doing, progressive Democrats are doing in the House, but I do know that they're making some inroads in the Senate, and it'll be interesting to see how all of that plays out. It will be big challenges ahead for everybody. Anybody who wins, big challenges ahead.
Yep, it is. And Patrick is just having some technical issues. It says having a little struggle. He'll be with us hopefully in a couple minutes.
All right.
Yes. So meanwhile, while we have a couple minutes, we can talk about some of the changes that are happening on a local level right here, staying in Newport at the Newport City Council level.
Well, even before we do that, let's just remind people that there's still some question as to when, in fact, the census will end. And it's either going to be October 5th or it's going to be the end of October. We have a federal judge that has said the end of October. We have the Trump administration who that says the heck with the courts. We'll decide the date. The fact is, get your census in now. Really important to do that. You can do it online. I don't have the website offhand, but should be easy enough to find. And very important, Rhode Island is facing the potential of losing one of the U.S. House of Representatives seats, and with that, also millions of dollars in federal aid, and that's a decade-long loss. So if everybody gets there and can get their census done, it gives us a better shot at retaining what we have. Ryan, you're muted. You're still muted. And you look like a mime. There we go.
And we had a great conversation with Secretary of State Nellie Gorbea on Friday.
We did.
I watched it. Just a reminder also that you have until this Sunday to register for vote in the general election.
Right.
And what we're going to do here is I can see him just getting his last pieces set up, and he'll be ready to join us here in a minute. We're all getting used to this video conferencing and video conversations. And Patrick, when you're ready, just give me a thumbs up and I'll bring you on here. All right, he is ready. And joining us now, candidate for House District 75. And we've talked to this man and sat down with this man before, and it is Patrick Donovan. Hi, Patrick.
Hi, Ryan. Nice to see you again. Hi, Frank.
How you doing, Patrick?
Good.
Oh, all right. So for those that don't
welcome to the
know,
big screen.
Yes, welcome to Hollywood Squares. For those that don't know Patrick Donovan, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then perhaps why you chose to run for District 75?
Well, let's see. My wife and I and family live here on 30 Harrison Avenue here in Newport, Rhode Island. We have 4 children who I've been blessed to be the stay-at-home dad raising them. Let's see. The children are doing well. We have 3 that are gainfully employed, which is awesome. The last one's in college, and she's down in Alabama studying engineering. And I just am looking for some practical solutions to the problems we're facing. And that's I don't see it being pushed or being brought forward by the people that we have representing us today.
Patrick, you said you're a stay-at-home dad, but you also said that 3 of the 4 kids are out of the house.
Yes, sir.
And how old is the other one?
The youngest is 20, and the oldest is, I'd hate to get it wrong, I believe she's 26.
Okay.
We have 2 that are living here in the state who are working. One's working as he's got his engineering degree, and he's working for the company building the vaccine for Moderna, and for this virus that we're all facing. And then we have another son down in Texas, and he's working as an engineer down there.
So I'm going to guess that you are or not employed at the moment.
This is my thing. I've been a stay-at-home dad. I manage our family. I'm the primary caregiver, and I guess it's really worked out that well because my wife had to have a surgery done, and so now I'm her primary caregiver right now. She's doing well, but she's got to convalesce. You know how that goes.
What's your educational background?
Well, I completed 2 years rather of college. I was going for my engineering degree and recognized that it was not for me, and so I left that, went down to Wall Street. Started as a clerk, ended up as a broker, and then a financial planner back in the 80s. And so I did that. I worked for, eventually ended up with an insurance company selling investments and pension plans for them. And then left them when I got married. We moved out to California where my wife was working. And I started working in the service industry. I worked as a bellman at the Ritz-Carlton Marina Del Rey for a little over a year. And then I worked selling chemicals. So as a sales rep, that was the kind of thing that I was, I guess, well equipped for.
I want to hear the stories about when you were a bellman.
Oh yeah, we can't do that here though. Okay, and never on record. It was quite a. Oh yeah, and it was entertaining, and it was a lot of fun, and there were a lot of people of note, as you can imagine, from the Hollywood experience, because they like to come down to the marina, and it's very interesting.
Patrick, can you talk about, was there any particular reason, there are lots of opportunities in different seats. Was there any reason that you chose District 75 was the right place for you to run for office right now?
So as a resident, citizen here in Newport, we got faced with a really horrible thing that happened. National Grid ended up not having gas for us on Aquidneck Island. Now we're on a high pressure line, which is just coincidental. We didn't, you didn't plan it, so we still had our natural gas and had energy coming into the house, and that was wonderful. Okay, but that was just because it happened that way. The rest of the island that didn't end up with natural gas, it was a disaster. For some people, it was a really terrible disaster for their finances, for their industry, for their businesses, for their homes. And I'm just curious why there was no force majeure ever even thought about or even talked about throughout the entire time. They said, "Oh yeah, we're gonna take care of this. We're gonna make sure this never happens again." I've been talking to a number of plumbers, okay, heating and air conditioning people, primarily heating, and asking them, "Can you tell me, is this something that happens a lot?" And the answer is yes. We run out of natural gas here a lot. Yes. Every winter. Not to the level that we did. Well, no, because we didn't have somebody else soaking it up, because there was a cold snap. Now, of course, the cold snap started in Canada. They didn't make it happen, mind you, of course, but nature is nature, and it drifted down to lower 48. So Wisconsin, Michigan, they had it before us, and it was known. It was known to everyone that the cold is coming. And what did they do? Did they plan to make sure that we had gas for our residents, for our nursing homes? No, they didn't. They didn't. And so what did they, what have they done to make sure that we have a good supply when cold comes again? Because, climate change happens. Okay. I'm not in charge of it. None of us are. We can certainly ameliorate it and help ourselves the best we can, but cold will come back. And we are not prepared nor set up for it if they're going to continue on doing the same thing they did in the past, which is not have a supply. Force majeure is an insurance term. It's means act of God, major force, and that we were in one of these back in Arkansas. What was it, 94, I believe it was. Maybe it was 96. Where there was an ice storm. They declared a force majeure in Texas, Texarkana, Arkansas, that whole area, and every piece of industry had to shut off their machines that were using natural gas, heating systems, et cetera, to make sure that there was enough volume for people's homes and hospitals and nursing homes, et cetera. That didn't happen for us. And they've done nothing to show me that they've upgraded the supply. We don't have new gas lines coming here. We don't have storage tanks. So National Grid is not our friend. Okay, they are a company that is being allowed to do pretty much whatever they want and not really do the job that they were that they're being hired to do. If you look around and you see old transformers up on power poles, they've been asked multiple times by my neighbors, would you please get rid of this transformer, which is decades old, which is actually not allowed to be still up by federal law. But our state rep, neighbors have said, hey, listen, we contacted her. She hasn't done anything. If she has done something, why is it still there? It shouldn't be there. The thing is actually bordered on the high school property here in Rogers. These things are filled with PCBs. We live on an island surrounded by water. You end up having this stuff wash into our ocean. I mean, it just seems ridiculous that we can't get the simple action that ought to be happening from our representatives and to get the PUC to do their job, and they're not.
As her constituent, have you reached out to the representative with your concerns?
If no one's getting traction, no. If people have, yeah, the answer is no. I have not.
Let me just follow up on that. If this issue is as important as it is to you, why would you not reach out to her, or have you reached out? Maybe you've reached out to others. I'm not sure. Is there anybody that you have reached out to?
Well, in finding this information out, I was just curious about about natural gas, and then as I was talking to a number of people about it, one of the neighbors said to me, "Hey, by the way, we've been on her to get rid of this transformer, to have National Grid come and get rid of this." They contacted National Grid. They've contacted her. Now, again, you say, "Why haven't I done it?" I just don't see me getting any traction out of her, meaning getting her to respond to me.
How about anybody else? Have you been in touch with National Grid? Have you been in touch with other public officials? Any city council members? The city manager? Other reps or senators in the area?
No, I haven't.
Frank, you want to get us started on our questions?
So number of things I wanted to look at, but what are your three? Obviously, the gas is your top issue. Give me a couple of other top issues.
Well, along with National Grid, so it really kind of focuses, deeply on that. So we have all of this wonderful renewable electricity from Canada. They've been offering it to us for 15 years or more at 3 cents a kilowatt. We've been, I the last time I ran for U.S. Congress. I got asked this question. Oh, that's never going to happen because the state of Maine and New Hampshire, they're not going to allow the power lines through. They already have power lines from Canada. They would have to upgrade them to have the ability to transmit larger amounts of electricity. And they said, oh, that's never going to happen. Well, now Massachusetts is suing the state of Maine to upgrade their power line so that they can have that renewable hydroelectric power. I'd like that here for Rhode Island. I like it for Rhode Islanders. I'd like it so that our manufacturers can have some way of staying here so that they can lower their costs or keep their costs at least competitive through the energy that they need to use instead of going out and buying enormously expensive, subsidized other renewable energy sources. It's a big get, but it's something that we should be right there with Massachusetts, arm in arm with them. Hey, let's go after that and let's get ourselves some great renewable electricity. And they have lots of it. And they've been trying to get it to us for a long time. I also think that we have a very challenging time in our schools. Now, we just got done, finished raising the kids. Every fall, every September, start school, need school supplies. It's pretty much always the same thing. You need a certain type of supply. Lower the anxiety of the parents, lower the anxiety of the students, lower the anxiety of the teachers. Have the state buy all those supplies from the manufacturers, much like a Walmart, Google, somebody else, somebody who gets them at really low prices, and then distribute it to the schools in August, that which they need. So they have them on hand and that it's there for the teachers and the students to use from day one.
When you referred to school supplies, give me some examples of what you're talking about.
I would say if they still use paper, they still use markers, they still use crayons, they still use paper towels, cleaning products. Make it those things standard. Ask the teachers what they need. It's pretty much, we've lived in a lot of different places across the country. We even lived overseas in Switzerland for 4 years. It's always the same. And yet it's a scramble to get those products in the kids' hands, in the teachers' hands, and so that it's constantly a anxiety-filled time instead of it being, okay, here we go. This is what we're starting with. So yes, with writing materials, and granted that we've talked about going paperless for decades, and that hasn't happened. It's wonderful we have a product such as we're using right now, but it's not the end all and the all. You need to have the ability for the children to write and to draw. I mean, using both sides of your brain is imperative for them to learn.
Patrick, if elected in November, you'd be one of very few Republicans up there at the State House. How do you see yourself working across the aisle to get things done?
Well, I'd like to think that there are a lot of people from all walks of life, whether it be from both parties, all walks of life, who want practical solutions to our problems today or our opportunities to succeed. And that's what I would be looking for, is practical solutions. We live here on an island, Kwignet Island. We have a water system that is a wonderfully conceived system, but it's almost 200 years old. Over the time, they've done all sorts of upgrades, which is wonderful. A friend of mine who works there, he discovered by just nosing around on the property while he was working there, he saw that there was a water line pouring water into the moat around First Beach. 18-inch water line, broken, just poured out. And I said, that's remarkable. I said, how many millions upon millions? He goes, oh, Pat, that had to be there open for decades. Now, we pump our water from Tiverton, Compton, up to Portsmouth, and then we allow it to roll downhill, okay? Thing is, we pay for that water with electricity for pumping, much less. There's a good chance we'd be out of water or close to it at this point if that had just kept going on. Where are these, where are the people who should be kind of, being, answer to the practicalities of things? Do we really have, do we have a stable water supply that we can count on? I mean, we've been very fortunate, and him catching that and then them plugging that up and making sure that that water doesn't run, that pretty much emptied the moat around First Beach, which is awesome. Okay. Because it's been a terrible problem for as long as I've come here.
Isn't that the way the process is supposed to work? If somebody sees something and brings it to their attention and they respond to it?
Sure. And what shouldn't they be, I hate to say audit, okay, because then it's we need an outside auditor. No. All of your practices should be looked at and say, okay, here's how we should look at what we're doing. And I don't see that happening. When you have people come forward who are in the business and who are mechanical, savvy people, and they bring it to the people who are supposed to be in charge, and they don't do it. They say, no, don't worry about it. Just pave that street, put a new pavement down. Why don't you replace the pieces that are underground first before you're throwing in the new pavement? And especially when you have people who are in the business telling the people, hey, that's what you should be doing. Nope. It's happened way too often.
So back to my question is, the world lives on legislation and operates on legislation. So how do you work with Democrats to get your your legislation passed and introduced? And how do you get your work done when you're very few of one party up there?
Well, again, I would like to think that the people that you can find who are looking for practical solutions. Now, is everyone? No, of course not. Some people have their ideas that they just want to, keep on holding on to their particular piece of power and just not, work with anybody other than what they want for them, for what maybe they want for their constituency. Maybe they just want it for themselves. I'd like to think, though, and I believe it's true. Now, of course, I could be wrong. I've been being proven wrong. I'll call uncle. But I think that we can work together. People, of goodwill, can work together to find practical solutions to our problems. Is it that nobody can go up there and work with the other party? I don't see that happening. I think that it's certainly possible.
You've used the term practical solutions quite often. Is one of them replacing the water lines and updating the entire system?
Well, first I'd say, why not grab the men and women who actually work in the pit and find out what are their needs. I don't mean, they're going to tell you what their needs are. They're going to tell you, excuse me, Frank, they're going to tell you what their needs are. And then you have you develop a list and say, okay, this is how we need to go at it. Would it have been better, Frank? Absolutely. Would have been better that before they repave another street, that they go down and remove all of that which is deteriorated and put the new stuff in? Absolutely. They haven't done that. So now we're at the point where you say, well, what's the solution? Part of that solution is when these guys come forward and say, listen, this is what we ought to be doing over here. Okay, how do we do it? How do we accomplish that? That's not been happening.
Let me switch gears a little bit. We've had I want to get your views on a couple of national, local things, but first, we've had this racial divide in the country. Give us your take on that and what you would do to try and heal that. Maybe you don't think there's a racial divide. I'm not.
Oh no. There's a lot of hard feelings that people have, and a lot of them are legitimate. Some are not, and the some that are not are people who are using people who have real feelings from experiences that they've had. And yeah, they have been using them. We lived out in Chicago, actually Buffalo Grove. We got down to Chicago quite a bit. The Chicago Police Department, pretty much out of control. Not the whole thing, but at least one precinct. And they did horrible, horrible damage to the people in that community who happened to be mostly Black or Latino. They've had to go into the jails and release people who are convicted by torture. Okay, we were there for this. It was horrible. All right.
I'm going to stop you there a minute. Convicted by torture. What does that mean?
They tortured them into confession. Okay, it's absolutely, absolutely horrid. And so there are people who absolutely have legitimate, heartfelt reasons for being so upset as they are. Absolutely.
Do we have racial problems in Rhode Island?
I imagine we do. We've raised our kids up to be as open and as loving and caring as you can be, and try to be considerate of other people's experiences and challenges. Have I seen a lot of racial problems here in Rhode Island? I wouldn't say what I've seen in other places. We lived out in Long Beach, California during the Rodney King aftermath, with the burning and looting of Los Angeles and Long Beach, where 1,500 structures were burned in Long Beach when we were there. Yeah, no, on that level, no. Our kids played with anyone who was on the field, and you know, out and off the field, they were always welcoming. So I understand your question about, oh, is there problems here? I'm sure there are. Am I looking at it as bad as other places? No, and I'm glad it's not as bad as other places. Can we do more to help people, to get them to understand how much we, all of us, I think you guys included, want them to succeed in life? Yeah. Can I go on, Frank, to just say this? I had a wonderful conversation with a school teacher here in Newport when I ran the last time. And she said to me, if you got in front of the NEA, what would you say? I said, well, my mom's a teacher, aunts, uncles, teachers, valued profession. I said, probably what you really need to think about is by the time that the child is 11, 10, 12, somewhere's in there, bring them into an auditorium with their parents, and with people who employ people here on the island. Okay, and there's a lot of different industries here, tremendous amount of different industries here. And ask them, who here hates school? Now, I would have been one of those kids, put my hand up and say, okay, you guys over here who love being in the classroom, and okay, you with your parents, you go on over here. We want to talk to these kids. We want to let them know how important it is that they get a high school education, to get at least a GED, and that we will back them and make sure that they're going to have some type of hands-on learning experience so that they get the verve to want to work. Okay, it is something you learn. Okay, to love to work, and I think that it's something that we owe to the children and to our neighbors.
What does, the ode to work, as well as, finding out what kids like school or hate school, have to do with Frank's question?
I'm sorry, Frank, your question again was?
My question was that we have a racial divide in this country. We have a racial divide in Rhode Island. What are your solutions to bring people together?
Well, Frank, I can't imagine that I have any of those solutions. Okay, I wish I did. Other than just being kind and considerate and be willing to listen.
But do you recognize that there is a racial divide?
Absolutely, absolutely, and they're right. So, if you're, as we're talking about it, you have people who have who perceive that they have, and probably an honest perception that they don't have the opportunities that others have. So, Brian, back to what I was talking about school, and what I was talking about having these young people and their parents to understand how much we want them to succeed. To convince people that we all want them to succeed. Okay, because that's part of the communication that we're not hearing right now, is that, hey, we really do want you to succeed. And success is not just a checkbook. It's a whole bunch of different markers that you have in life. And that if the kids don't actually get that, and that, oh, you know what, I'm just going to go play some sports at school and then I'll just kind of hack off, and, you know, whatever will happen will happen. I think that's a big part of it, is that they're not seeing that we are bought into their success.
What's your perception of the concept of defunding the police?
I think that's a horrible idea. I think it's truly a horrible idea. I spoke to you about what happened in Chicago. Okay. And it happened over decades. It was horrible. Do we have bad policing? Obviously, we've seen bad policing. Do we have great policing? Yep, we have great policing. So on measure, to defund the police? No.
So I've seen leaders of the Black community, including Al Sharpton, talk about this concept and saying that, in fact, it's not about defunding the police, but rather, in fact, making sure the police departments are both robust and have the appropriate help that they can get through social workers and other people who, when they go out to certain situations where there's domestic violence, that they have the social service agency support with them to diffuse what could be a very difficult situation. That's what I've heard of the description of defunding the police, and that defunding the police is really a misnomer. It's really about providing them with the adequate support.
Well, so let's take it for, a big city did it. New York City, hey, we're going to take $1 billion away from your undercover police. That's defunding the police. You're saying that they're saying rather that, oh no, we don't need them, and that this is something that we're going to do, and then they say they're going to take that money and put it in the budget towards social services. I won't hold my breath that they do the right thing with that money. But the thing is, you've taken away the opportunity of protecting the people who are being most impacted by street crime and violent crime. And the people in those neighborhoods, they're not going to be protected. You're going to roll around in your police car with your police uniform on, and everyone's going to stop doing the bad activity until you leave, and then it's going to go right back up again. So taking away that opportunity for the police department to catch people who should not be doing bad things, catch them doing bad things, it's important. And I believe, Reverend Sharpton can say all sorts of stuff over the length of his life. I'm originally from New York. I heard him say a lot of stuff, growing up. The idea that you're going to send social workers, meaning you better hire them. You better hire a whole bunch of them. Are we going to go out and do a jobber, meaning you're going to buy the time for some social workers? They're not going to be state or city employees. Where's all that going to come from? I wish that we could have better responses to domestic disputes. Going into domestic disputes, I wish, if you've interviewed policemen on your show, they'd say to you, it's the scariest thing other than stopping someone at night for violating for some type of driving law. And so traffic infraction or light broken or what have you, missing license plate, it's fraught with danger. Are we going to get social workers who, number one, would want to go into that thing because it's not a settled situation? That would be interesting to see. I think he's talking pie in the sky. I wish things were not so, people were filled with anxiety and trouble in their lives, but we've gone through this, virus out of Wuhan, China, which continues to reverberate around the world, much less here in our wonderful Rhode Island. What is it? How would that look? The social workers coming in.
I can't believe it took us. Go ahead.
I would suggest you take a look at Camden, New Jersey, and take a look at that. What's happened there in terms of they're remaking their police department and the crime rate going down significantly.
Which I'm glad to hear. We lived down in Pennsylvania when Camden was just out of control. It was horrible. the amount of violence and mayhem that went on in that city. And if they've gotten better results, I'm really happy for them. It remains to be seen. If it happened in Camden, great for Camden.
It took us about 36 minutes to finally get to it. I'm surprised it did, but COVID-19, and you brought it up, and we have a series of questions that we usually start things with because COVID comes up a lot sooner. But, let's start with, are you supportive of the governor's orders such as mask wearing, physical distancing, size of gatherings, and other regulations she's put in the last 6-7 months? Right.
I think it was reasonable to wear a mask, a face covering, to keep your particulate to yourself. It is not a filter for other particulate coming into you. The respirator, a 95, right? That one is only 95%, effective. So the rest of us are just using a cloth to keep our respiration to ourselves. I think that's grand. Okay. Do I think that all the closings were appropriate or considered and reasonable? No, I don't. I think that she has been working hard with her state health doctor to try and do the best that she can with what she has. My problem would be an opening of the schools. I went to the dentist the other day, had a little work done. And in every room, every operating room he has a HEPA filter, brand new. There's a lot of money sent to the states, particularly our state, from the federal government to help open the schools. Do the schools have the materials for people to feel comfortable, much less that it would really work? And of course, HEPA filter does work. Why wouldn't they bought these things over the last 4 or 5 months and got them into the schools so that you would have that extra, prophylactic apparatus that would help in ameliorating people's anxiety? Didn't happen. I don't know why it didn't happen. Certainly, they have some very bright people that they're working with. So yeah, do I think that encouraging people to wash their hands? Absolutely. Do I think that distancing? Yes. Do I think that you can't have but 5 or 10 people for a funeral? No. People need to, feel joy, and they need to feel sadness. These things that are delayed only make people, have higher anxiety.
I'll keep going here with the COVID businesses. You mentioned that, the closings and things like that. So businesses throughout Rhode Island, some of them are suffering during this. What would you do to help improve the business climate during and after?
We have, and as you know, I'm sure that people have told you, and people have told us, there's a lot of businesses that are very much on the edge of failure. Catering operations, restaurants. I just heard about the bakery up there in Federal Hill that we've gone to for many years, and that's they're telling that they're closing. We've gone as far as we could, and we just kept going with keeping things shut down. Do I think that it was entirely appropriate? No, I don't. And granted, more information keeps coming out. We're reading up as much as we can about this, and CDC is talking about, what is the real fatality rate for people who are 60, who get this, 65, et cetera. People who are healthy, generally, if they don't know what their underlying conditions are not in great risk for this virus. We have businesses that are floundering, and they're not going to be in business. So what would we do? We should be opening up more opportunity for them to actually have their business run. Wide open? No. We have to be reasonable, but it should have happened maybe a month or so ago to say, okay, this is how we can do this so that we can have at least a semblance of these businesses being able to stay in business. Because the way it looks now, we're going to lose a lot of them.
The governor just announced that she's extended this stage 3 for another month till the end of October. which means that we'll be at the same position we are now. Nationally, we're over 7 million cases, over 200,000 people who have died. Is there an acceptable level of deaths that we should? Is there an acceptable level of deaths that that we should accept and reopen the economy even further?
Oh boy, and isn't that just the crux of it, right? How strong do we want to be, or how weak do we want to be? And I do mean that. We have people who are doing yeoman's work, working their tails off at grocery stores and across the country. You have people who are doing incredible amount of work in nursing homes and protecting them and keeping them healthy. So can we do that? Yeah. Can we open up further? Yes. Should we open up further? Oh, absolutely. We're not going to. We've kept this at this point, and it doesn't seem that that it's going to change anytime soon. So now it's on for another month. Yes, I think that she is incorrect in what she's doing. It's her call. Apparently, she's wrong, just dead wrong. We need to open it up further. Wide open? No. You can start moving in percentages and see where it takes us. But that's what she kept telling she was going to do. And they say, oh, no, we have cases. It's a virus. It's everywhere. Okay. It is not something that you can completely control, but they don't talk about what the viral load is that you need to get this thing. Now, it's very interesting to me. I'm not a scientist, mind you, but I'm looking at it saying, we really have a kind of an upside down view of this thing. We have all sorts of different viruses that come through. Okay. I've had quite a few of them over the years, and it was uncomfortable. Absolutely. Is there an acceptable number of people dying with this? Whether or not they have it or not, that's another question. Whether or not they died from it, that's another question, isn't it? We have people who are very, very sick and very fragile. And there's could this have pushed them over the edge? Absolutely. I don't have all those metrics. Okay. We have a number that we're willing to talk about. 200,000 people are dead who have had this when they died. Is it acceptable? Nobody wants people to die. I don't. But do we have to get on with life? Yes, we do. And we do have to open up our industries. Okay. I mean, we just have to. And again, wide open? No, that doesn't make any sense. You need to keep some of the distance. You need to keep the cleanliness. You need to keep the hygiene. But it's acceptable. I don't know who would say that it's acceptable.
So there seems to be a divide between the president and the scientists. Where do you come down? Which side?
So what particular thing are we talking about? The president says a lot of stuff, and so do the scientists.
Well, the scientists are pretty clear. I've heard Fauci talk about how, as we go into the cold weather, there's going to be a lot of people indoors, and that we should brace ourselves for what would likely be an increase in the number of cases. And we have the president who tells us we've turned the corner, and that and he holds his rallies where there's no social distancing, there's few masks, and clearly seems to be endorsing that approach. I'm wondering which way do you see it?
So again, when you're talking about having, I don't know, thousands of people, 10,000 people together, shoulder to shoulder, and cheering like that, whether it be a bunch of people on the street acting up at night and doing the bad stuff that they've been doing, or President Trump's rallies that are way too close and not wearing masks, I'm not for it. Number one, I wouldn't do it. Okay. And I wouldn't recommend it for somebody else to do. Dr. Fauci is he's a guy who really is looking to have the least amount of bad happen. That's nice. Okay. But bad happens. Okay. Is the virus going to continue to stay with us? Yes, it is. Is it going to continue to be as virulent, catchable as it's been? Well, that remains to be seen. We have lots and lots of people doing distance working, right? Millions. Will that actually keep this from spreading as fast as Dr. Fauci is alluding? Yes, it will. Are the subways in New York City full? No, they're not. Okay. Are the buses full? No, they're not. People aren't doing that. So his concern that we are going to have a large outbreak or more cases. We'll have more cases. There's no doubt. There's no doubt. It's a virus, and people are going to catch it. And I hope that it's a mild case, and I hope that we have the medical ability to take care of them. I understand we just closed 2 of our emergency hospital venues, and we're going to break it down, and we're going to have only 1. That seems to me to say that our governor looks at it and says, oh, you know what? We don't need it. That's an extra expense, and it's a waste of treasure and talent to be being focused on that. So it kind of says to me that she's actually on the side of saying, yeah, we've kind of turned the corner. No, not kind of turned the corner. It looks like she means we really turned the corner when you take down 2 of 3.
Patrick, in 2020, is it easier or harder to identify and run as a Republican?
Let's see. It was interesting. I have to say, only because of my experience of meeting people and so on, I have no problem with it. To identify as a Republican, yeah, it's very easy. Do I have people saying things to me? Hey, Donald Trump, this, he's president of the United States. Take it up with him. Okay, he's doing a job on a national level as president of the United States. Do we have any? Do we have many people who are thinking, hey, we should have some Republicans in the state house just to offer a contra view or a different view than the one that is presently being followed? Yeah, absolutely. So when I was asked by progressives to run against Ms. Carson, I was stunned. I was like, really? Like, yeah, well, we'd love to have you. She's not doing anything that she said she was going to do for us. So, I'm giving it a shot to try and get up there and try to have them see that there are things that we can and should do here in Rhode Island that will benefit us all. And that's what I'm trying to do.
Patrick, I want to switch gears a little bit. Get your take on climate change and the threat it has for Newport.
Okay.
What should Rhode Island be doing to mitigate the impact of climate change? What can we do to help, stop, prevent, whatever it may be in District 75?
And maybe underlying all that is, your belief whether or not climate change is real. Well,
I'm gonna go past with the belief. I'm gonna go with think. I think climate change is real. I think that the climate does change. Now, to mitigate what we're thinking, what the scientists and the engineers and others who have brought up and said, listen, it's CO2, it's the particle in the air that we keep throwing up in the air. That is going to harm us. And it does. It harms us when we breathe it. Okay. Ground level ozone, very bad. So how do we find a way to mitigate that? Well, if we were to get that, electricity from Canada, we could be really not having to burn a lot of carbon-based fuels to actually show a way in which we are looking to see if that is actually one of the causalities of climate change.
Any other suggestions?
I think that's a big one. I think that if you can eliminate a whole bunch of carbon-based fuels powering up electric plants, I think that is what we've been trying to do for some time. If we're talking about mass transit, I would love mass transit in Newport like nobody's business. The little railroad line that could. I'm not saying about bringing it off the island. I'm just saying about using it here on the island and make it autonomous. If we're going to have autonomous trucks going down a highway and autonomous cars, you would think that we could have autonomous rail cars, small ones, okay, just a little commuter one go back and forth, park somewheres out there. We'll figure out a parking lot to get the cars out of Newport, who really don't, not necessarily do they want to have them. Okay, people visiting here. And I think that would help in just our locality.
How do you think you can make District 75 a more attractive and affordable place to live for families, for seniors, and for all?
Well, again, I'd go back to the mass transit to try and get some of these cars, et cetera, to not be here roaming around, as opposed to, hey, park your vehicle. This is a walking city. It's a walking island. It's a wonderful place to come. To make it more livable, I think that we have to try and find a way to keep our expenses down. Now, obviously, we've heard this for decades and decades. I'm offering something that I would push hard for us to get inexpensive electricity. We're paying 27 cents a kilowatt coming from the offshore wind now. If they bump those up and they put the big ones in there, it'll be a heck of a lot more that we're going to be subsidizing them for. Now, that means we all pay more, and that's not good for seniors. It's not good for families trying to keep their expenses down, and it's not good for the cities. What's kind of striking is that with all the talk of renewable energy, we don't hear anything about geothermal for any of the larger buildings that the municipalities own, including schools. They have the footprint, the availability of the science is there, but nothing. And with that lower, your consumption of carbon-based, power and electricity, yes, it would. These things are, they're used other places. Why not here?
Patrick, a couple of Newport questions quick. What do we do about Rogers?
Rogers. Well, I think building it at Rogers High School would be impractical. Okay, back to practical. I think going over to where CCRI is, you have a piece of land there, build a wonderful school there. If that's what we so desire, to build a school here in our city, we don't need to have AP classes at this high school. If you have CCRI right there, you can partner with CCRI and have the young people who want to take AP classes go right across the street or go right through the lawn, down the sidewalk, and go take your classes there. I would also say to you that if we're going to go that route, we should take all the VOTEC and talk to Middletown. Hey, I know guys don't want to partner. You don't want to have a regional school, fine, but you're sending your students here for vocational training, and we love that. How about you guys take the vocational training, and we'll go and partner with you on building a vocational training center out there, because this is just impractical out here. This is not, number one, this is not where the students are. Number two, it's further away from all of that the young people should be looking at. And I mean young people as in looking at getting some college credit, looking at that, hey, I want some continuing education. Doesn't mean you need to have a college degree, but you can pick up courses that will aid you in whatever endeavor you want to get involved in, but they need to be focused on that and not on putting another building out here. And what, you're going to build it for 2 years while they tell me this is the worst school in the state? It's not. I've been in some of the schools in our state, and this one is not the worst. So if you build new school, absolutely. Practical, you got to go down here. You can't. The idea of putting it up here is just.
Patrick, let's talk development a little bit. What would you do with the North End?
Oh my! If I'm king for the day.
If you're king for the day.
How would you like it? What was my question? Hold on, I have the question. It's 2030 comes around, 10 years from now. What is the ideal North End, Pell Bridge, ramp realignment area? And I recognize that some of that is not part of District 75. But what does that look like? What do you think it should look like in 10 years?
So my fantasy, because that's what it is, my fantasy is that they would incorporate that rail line, and they would put a light rail, and they would bring it up to where the Daily News is, up where the Highlight is, when they go and redevelop all that, and so that people can jump on that and take a little trolley, go right down into town, be dropped off, have that come in a loop, go back around. If you want to go out to Portsmouth or what have you, go use that. That would be part of what I think we should desire in that. Do I think we're going to get a development there, and they're going to build some very interesting, a very interesting piece of property? We've lived a whole bunch of different places in the country, and we visited others. And I think that having a combined residential and shopping, or even something of where people would work, okay, meaning doing some type of technology job that would feed into the base or into Newark. I think that is something that should be in. It should be a total mix in that regard. Attractive, I would hope it would be attractive. That first blush, what they were showing, obviously that was just their first renderings that they wanted to show people. It didn't look all that attractive, but that's really that's something that I would love to see, because we're going to have people who want to visit here. We're not making any more real estate here. You saw how the crowds came, even when they had a chance of catching the Wuhan virus. You saw how the streets were flooded this summer, and we didn't have a big outbreak of the virus. Thank goodness. I'm glad to hear that. I think that, but the amount of people close together, it just shows you how we're going to continue to have the draw that we've always had. You need to be.
Speaking of the draw, we all of us here, the different sides of the hospitality and tourism in Newport. Oh, there's too much of it. Oh, it's what makes Newport go. Where do you fall on hospitality tourism? Is there too much? Do we need to do anything? Do we need to do anything with Airbnbs? Your take on hospitality tourism in Newport?
Well, let's start with Airbnbs. I think that if you do not have someone in residence, managing them in residence, then they really shouldn't be in a residential area. Okay, I actually think that they also should be looked at as having someone in residence, even in the more commercial area. I go back to getting people out of their cars and getting them walking. That is something that we've been talking about for years and years and years. I would love to see it happen. You've seen how many more people are riding their bicycles today and walking. It is that type of feel, and people love it. And so, do we have that set up where people get the word out? Hey, come here, but walk and ride. Don't come driving through here. It doesn't add to the flavor of it. And we have a particular. We live on Harrison Avenue, so we've had a particular amount of hit and runs on cars this summer, and not good. Had 27 motorcycles slide down the road here about 50, 60 miles an hour on Sunday, blowing through the stop sign. Dangerous for pedestrians, little kids, riders on bikes. And so you want to educate people. You want to ask them, please. Okay. Please is a great word. Do I think we have enough hospitality? I would say that we have a good number. Can we still absorb a little bit more? Sure, I'm sure we could. Do we have the amenities, the services to take care of that? Well, let's see. When we had the beginning of the summer, we had a whole bunch of people, which is wonderful, coming down to King Park, which I've been going to that park for decades, and I got to tell you, never seen so many people like this summer. It's wonderful them using it. Garbage cans overflowed. Okay, send out the trash man more often to pick them up. The trash man will pick the stuff up. Instead, the answer was close the park. What? No. We this is the Pineapple. We're the welcoming place. What do we need to do to make it a better experience for people coming here? And it's wonderful the different things that people did along the way in regards to opening up the restaurants, letting the restaurateurs come out and put their tables in the streets, et cetera. And then just ask them, would you please put a trash can with that? And the restaurateurs are going to say, yeah, all day long, we'll take care of that. And then they'll bring it in at night when they're done. We work with the people who are trying to make a living here.
I know we want to wrap up here. We've had you for almost an hour. So I'll ask you, what makes you uniquely qualified to serve in the State House of Representatives representing District 75 in Newport?
I'd like to think that it's a service job, that you're supposed to be of service to your constituents. I don't think that she has. Now I understand what Frank says, Frank, but as Frank said, Pat, you haven't called her. No, I've had a lot of other people that I know have called her and they've gotten no traction out of her. Now, if that's not true, okay, fine. Please vote for Ms. Carson, keep her in, and let it keep going. Uniquely, I have been of service to people for the last 25 years of my life, not just my family, but other people and their children through the years. And so I think that I can handle the job. And I think that I can join with my brothers and sisters who are Democrats up in the State House to achieve some of these practical solutions to our challenges.
Frank, do you have anything else before we wrap up here?
I mean, there's a lot. So, I mean, but we don't have time. I mean, I would question about whether or not you support the use of tax incentives to attract businesses to Rhode Island. Your take on affordable housing, whether there's a sufficient amount in the state and in
Newport. Excuse me, Frank, but there is a sufficient amount in Newport. Absolutely, we have an overload. Most of the cities in our state do not have the requisite number that people say they should have, and that's what they've done, and that's their stuff. Now, in regards to having more affordable housing here, it's becoming unaffordable because people are buying it up like mad. And so, how do you stop them from buying? I don't know. I don't see it happening. I mean, we've watched it, and it's not. It's actually. I wish. I wish we would have more families in Newport, but we just don't.
Patrick, if people want to get a hold of you, if they want to check out a website, ask you a question, write you an email, how can they get in touch with you?
I'm at pdonovan1058@gmail.com. And thanks, Ryan. I appreciate it. Thanks, Frank.
Of course.
Thank you.
Patrick, I like to ask, did we miss anything that you wanted to bring up that we didn't get a chance to?
No, not this time. But
okay.
It's I look forward to getting together with you guys again.
All right. Well, we wish you the best of luck. A reminder to everybody, your deadline to register to vote, if you haven't already, is this Sunday. And of course, Patrick is looking for your vote in District 75, which is most of Newport, on November 3rd. So Patrick, we wish you the very best of luck, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Frank.
All right. And that is going to do it for us, Mr. President, and I'll see you in about an hour.
Yeah, even less than that.
All righty. On behalf of Frank Prosidence and myself and all of us here at What's Up Newp, I want to thank Patrick Donovan for joining us for a conversation today. If you missed any portion of this conversation, we will have it live for you, or not live, but a recording of it on whatsupnewp.com as well as on our Facebook page. Thanks for watching.
Mm-hmm.